What are massed and distributed practice? Imagine that you have some amount of time, say 30 minutes, that you're going to devote to skill practice. Doesn't matter whether you're talking about a sports skill like shooting a basketball or studying for your next calculus exam. We're going to call that mass practice, that you've spent some amount of time studying or practicing one skill. Now imagine you take that same amount of time and you break it up into a bunch of smaller chunks. Now it's the same total amount of time. And imagine you go a step further and you space those chunks of time out with rest or doing something different. That is distribution of practice. So the total amount of practice time is the same, but you're breaking that time into smaller chunks and spacing it out with rest or another activity. This also applies to spacing of practice sessions across days or weeks. Imagine that you have 6 practice sessions that you're going to do. If you do them all back to back in 1 week, that could be an example of mass practice. However, imagine you take those 6 sessions and you spread them out over 2 weeks. That is again distribution of practice. Now this is a continuum. There's no magic amount of distribution. You need to use a bit of common sense. But at the end of the day, if you take some amount of practice and you break it into smaller chunks, you're distributing practice. So what does the research say about distribution of practice? It's pretty unanimous. Here you look at an example of students doing a speed stacking task. What the research shows is that people who practiced under a distributed practice schedule outperform those that practice under a mass practice schedule. And you see this throughout retention, especially in the early and late stages here. And you also see it, importantly, in a retention test, which is the 12th data point that you can see. So the research supports the distribution of practice effect, and as I said earlier, it's pretty much unanimous. You should be distributing practice.